The stadium lights blinded Eliana as she leaned in and kissed Gwendolyn full on the lips right there on national television. Gasps ripped through the arena louder than any goal she had ever scored. And before the camera cut away, her agent's phone was already ringing with the news that Nexus Sportswear had just terminated her 8-figure endorsement deal. She pulled back slowly, Gwendolyn's hand still trembling in hers, and whispered, "I'm done pretending." The crowd's roar turned ugly in seconds. Phones rose like a wave, live streams exploded, and Eliana knew her carefully built world had just shattered in front of 20 million viewers. Security rushed them out through the players' tunnel, while reporters screamed questions. "Eliana, are you gay? What about your family values campaign? Will the league stand by you?" She kept her chin high, Gwendolyn's arm locked around her waist, but inside her chest the old panic clawed its way up. The same panic that had once made her walk away from the only person who ever truly saw her. Back then in college, she had told herself it was temporary. One broken heart to protect her future. Now the future was on fire, and the past was screaming louder than ever. By the time they reached their downtown Seattle condo, the hashtags were trending worldwide. Eliana exposed, boycott Nexus, lesbian athlete scandal. Eliana dropped onto the couch, still in her grass-stained jersey, while Gwendolyn poured 2 glasses of water with hands that refused to steady. "You didn't have to do that," Gwendolyn said quietly. "We had a plan. Keep it quiet until after the Olympics." Eliana stared at the floor. "The plan died the second I saw that little girl in the front row holding a sign that said, 'Be brave.' I couldn't breathe anymore, Gwen. Not one more second." That night the flashbacks came whether she wanted them or not. 10 years earlier, Stanford's women's soccer field at dusk. Gwendolyn, then just a quiet photography major, had been shooting the team for the school paper. Eliana had scored the winning goal and, instead of celebrating with her teammates, she had found herself alone with Gwendolyn behind the bleachers. Their first kiss tasted like grass and freedom. For 6 perfect months they were inseparable, stealing moments between classes and practices, whispering dreams of a future where they wouldn't have to hide. Then Eliana's parents flew in for Parents' Weekend. Conservative, church-going Midwesterners who had sacrificed everything for their daughter's scholarship. When they caught her leaving Gwendolyn's dorm at 2 a.m., the lecture lasted until sunrise. "This phase ends now," her father had said. "You want to play pro? You want sponsors? Then you smile for the cameras and you date boys." Eliana had cried for 3 days straight before she ended it. She told Gwendolyn the words that still haunted her. "I can't be this person and still be me." Gwendolyn had simply nodded, tears falling silently, and walked away without slamming the door. That silence had hurt worse than any scream. Eliana blinked back to the present. Gwendolyn was watching her from the kitchen doorway, the same patient eyes from college now carrying 10 extra years of quiet pain. "You're shaking," Gwendolyn said. "Come to bed." But sleep never came. At 3 a.m. Eliana's phone lit up with a message from her mother. "Call us. We're praying for you." She deleted it without answering. Morning brought the official cancellation email from Nexus. Due to values misalignment, Eliana read it twice, then forwarded it to her agent with one line. "I'm not apologizing." Gwendolyn made coffee and didn't argue. Outside, protesters had already gathered across the street, some holding rainbow flags in support, others with signs that read "God made Adam and Eve." Eliana stood at the window, jaw tight, feeling the weight of every choice she had ever made pressing down on her chest. She had no idea that a single envelope, postmarked from a small town in Texas and addressed in careful childish handwriting, was already traveling across the country toward her. The envelope arrived 2 days later, slipped under their door by a neighbor who said a courier had dropped it off. Eliana almost tossed it aside. Fan mail had turned into hate mail overnight. But something about the shaky return address made her pause. Sofia Ramirez, age 12, Austin, Texas. Inside was a single sheet of notebook paper covered in purple ink. "Dear Eliana, I saw you kiss your wife on TV. My mom said I had to go to bed, but I watched on my tablet under the covers. I'm scared every day because my dad says girls like me are going to hell. I wanted to tell someone who's brave. You look scared too, but you did it anyway. Please don't say sorry. Please don't hide again. I'm trying to be brave like you now. Love, Sophia." Eliana read it 3 times before the tears came. Gwendolyn found her on the floor of the hallway, clutching the letter like a lifeline. "She's 12, Eliana whispered. 12, Gwen. And she's already carrying the same weight I ran from." Gwendolyn knelt beside her, reading over her shoulder, and for the first time in days her voice cracked. "You can't carry every scared kid in the world." "I know," Eliana said, "but I can stop running from the one I hurt the most." The next week became a blur of emergency meetings and sleepless nights. Her agent begged her to issue a statement. Something about love being love but respecting traditional values. And Eliana hung up on him. Sponsors pulled out one by one. The league issued a lukewarm, "We support all players" press release that fooled nobody. On social media, former teammates posted carefully neutral messages while anonymous accounts sent death threats. Through it all, the flashbacks kept coming at the worst moments. She remembered the night she had introduced her first fake boyfriend to her parents the year after college. Gwendolyn had seen the Instagram post and texted one line, "I hope he makes you happy." Eliana had stared at that message for an hour before blocking the number. 2 years later, during the Olympic trials, she had spotted Gwendolyn in the stands, alone, camera around her neck, taking photos for a small magazine. Their eyes had met for 3 full seconds before Eliana turned away. That night she had cried in a hotel bathroom until her throat was raw. Now Gwendolyn was here, sleeping beside her every night. Yet the guilt felt heavier than ever. On Thursday her parents flew in unannounced. Her mother hugged her stiffly at the airport while her father refused to look at Gwendolyn. "We raised you better than this," he said in the car. "You had everything. Why throw it away for this?" Eliana gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles whitened. "Because this is the only real thing I've ever had." The argument lasted until midnight. Her father quoted scripture. Her mother cried about lost sponsorships and grandkids they would never have. When they finally left, Eliana found Gwendolyn on the balcony staring at the city lights. "They're never going to accept us," Gwendolyn said softly. "And part of me still wonders if you will regret choosing me when the money's gone." Eliana stepped behind her, wrapping arms around her waist. "I regretted choosing them every single day I was away from you." The following morning another letter arrived, this one from the league office. Mandatory sensitivity training, and a public apology recommended, if she wanted to keep her roster spot for the next international window. Eliana read it once, then burned it in the kitchen sink while Gwendolyn watched without speaking. That afternoon she posted a single photo on her personal account. The two of them on their wedding day 2 years earlier. Small private ceremony on a beach in Oregon, no press, no sponsors, just them and 2 friends. Caption: "I kissed my wife because she is my wife. I won't apologize for loving her. The rest is noise." The internet detonated. Within hours the post had 3 million likes and 500,000 comments, half love, half hate. Eliana turned her phone off and pulled Gwendolyn into the bedroom where they held each other until the shaking stopped. The league's response came fast, suspended pending investigation. Eliana's agent quit via email. Her jersey sales spiked ironically among supporters and crashed among traditional fans. But the letter from Sophia kept replaying in her mind like a heartbeat. She sat at the kitchen table at 4 a.m. writing a reply she knew she might never send. "Dear Sophia, I was scared too. I hurt someone I loved because I was scared. I won't do it again. Thank you for reminding me what brave looks like." Gwendolyn found her there at dawn, eyes red. "You're going to answer her?" "I have to," Eliana said. "She's living the same nightmare I forced on you." Gwendolyn sat across from her, quiet for a long minute. "You didn't force anything. I chose to wait. I chose to love you even when you left." The words landed like stones in still water. Eliana reached for her hand. "I need you to tell me the truth about how much I broke you." Gwendolyn looked away toward the window. "After you ended it, I stopped taking photos for almost a year. I transferred schools. I dated men trying to prove you were right, that it was just a phase. None of them lasted. Then one night in Chicago I stood on a bridge and thought about jumping. I didn't. But I still have the scar on my wrist where I hesitated." Eliana felt the floor tilt. She had never known. Gwendolyn had never told her. The guilt that had lived in her chest for a decade suddenly had teeth. That same afternoon a reporter from ESPN showed up at their building. Eliana agreed to a sidewalk interview because hiding felt worse. The questions were sharp. Do you regret the kiss? No. Will you apologize to your sponsors? No. What about young fans who look up to you as a role model? Eliana pulled out Sophia's letter and held it to the camera. This is the only fan I care about right now. She's 12 and she's terrified. If my truth helps her, then I've done something right for once. The clip went viral before the interview even aired. Back inside, Gwendolyn was packing a small suitcase. I need a few days, she said quietly. Your past and my past are colliding and I can't breathe. Eliana's heart cracked open. Don't go. I'm not leaving forever, Gwendolyn answered. I just need to remember why I stayed. The door closed softly behind her, and Eliana sank to the floor. Sophia's letter still clutched in her fist. 2 days later Gwendolyn came back with red eyes and a new determination. I talked to a therapist, she said. She said we both need to stop punishing you for choices you made at 22. They sat on the couch and talked until sunrise, about the college breakup, the fake boyfriends, the secret wedding, the years of stolen weekends. When the sun came up, Eliana made a decision. I'm going to Austin. I need to meet Sophia. Gwendolyn smiled for the first time in weeks. Then I'm coming with you. The flight to Austin felt like stepping into another lifetime. Sophia's mother met them at the gate, nervous, grateful, exhausted. She hasn't stopped talking about you since the kiss, she said. They drove to a modest house on the outskirts where Sophia waited on the porch, skinny legs swinging, purple backpack at her feet. When she saw Eliana she froze, then ran straight into her arms. You came, she whispered. Eliana held her tight. I had to. They spent the afternoon in the backyard. Sophia showed them her soccer ball, her drawings of rainbow flags, the journal where she wrote letters she never sent to her dad. Eliana listened without interrupting, feeling every word like a mirror. When Sophia asked, were you scared when you kissed her on TV? Eliana answered honestly, terrified. But I was more scared of waking up at 40 still lying to everyone, including myself. Gwendolyn sat quietly beside them, occasionally squeezing Eliana's hand. That night back at the hotel, the flashbacks returned stronger than ever. Eliana remembered the exact moment she had told her college coach she was focusing on soccer and needed space from Gwendolyn. The coach had clapped her on the back and said, "Smart choice, kid. Sponsors love clean images." She had believed it then. Now the lie tasted like poison. Gwendolyn watched her pace the room. You're spiraling again. I keep thinking about the bridge, Eliana admitted. If I had known. You didn't, Gwendolyn said gently. And we're here now. That has to be enough. Morning brought new chaos. A conservative radio host in Seattle had started a petition to have Eliana banned from the national team. Her parents texted a photo of their church bulletin with her name listed under prayer requests for the lost. Eliana stared at the screen until Gwendolyn took the phone away. We fight back or we don't, she said. But we do it together. Eliana nodded. Together. They flew home the next day with Sophia's promise to write every week. At Seattle-Tacoma Airport a small group of fans waited with rainbow signs. Among them was a teenage girl holding a sign that read, "Thank you for Sophia." Eliana signed jerseys and posed for photos, feeling something shift inside her chest. For the first time the fear felt smaller than the purpose. Back in their condo the league called. They offered a compromise, private counseling and no more public displays. Eliana laughed out loud. Tell them I said no. She hung up and immediately dialed a different number, her old college teammate who now ran a nonprofit for LGBTQ youth athletes. I want to start something, she said. A foundation. Safe spaces. Scholarships. Real support. The teammate didn't hesitate. I'm in. That night Eliana and Gwendolyn danced in the living room to an old song from their Stanford days. No cameras, no crowds, just them. When Gwendolyn rested her head on Eliana's shoulder she whispered, I'm proud of you. Eliana closed her eyes and finally believed it. The foundation launch happened faster than anyone expected. Within 3 weeks they had a website, a GoFundMe that raised $200,000, and a waiting list of 30 young athletes. Eliana poured every spare hour into it. Zoom calls with donors, interviews where she refused to soften her words, late nights writing grant applications. The work kept the panic at bay, but the confrontations kept coming. Her father showed up alone one rainy Tuesday. No mother this time. He stood in the doorway dripping wet, refusing to come inside. "Your mother's in the hospital," he said. "Stress. She won't say it, but it's because of you." Eliana felt the familiar guilt rise, but Gwendolyn stepped forward. "Mr. Reyes, with all due respect, your daughter is saving lives. Maybe it's time you asked yourself who's really causing the stress." He left without another word, but the damage was done. Eliana spent the night staring at the ceiling while Gwendolyn held her. Social media turned uglier. Death threats escalated. A prominent male soccer star tweeted that she was ruining the sport for real athletes. Sponsors who had already dropped her began issuing statements about family values. Through it all, Sophia's weekly letters arrived like clockwork, short updates about school, soccer practice, and the courage it took to wear a small rainbow pin to class. Each one reminded Eliana why she couldn't quit. The breaking point came during a mandatory league hearing. They flew her to New York and sat her in a conference room with 8 stern faces. "We need you to issue a statement distancing yourself from the more radical elements of the community," the commissioner said. Eliana looked at each of them in turn. "The only radical thing I did was kiss my wife. If that's too much for you, then I don't belong here anyway." She walked out before they could respond. Gwendolyn was waiting in the hallway. "How did it go?" "I think I just quit professional soccer," Eliana said. Strangely, she felt lighter. That evening they sat on the hotel balcony overlooking the city. Gwendolyn traced the scar on her own wrist absently. "I need to tell you something I've never said out loud. The night on the bridge I had your last text saved on my phone. The one where you said we were a mistake. I read it right before I stepped up onto the railing. Then I read it again and realized the mistake wasn't us. It was letting fear win. So I stepped down." Eliana pulled her close, tears falling freely. "I will spend the rest of my life making sure fear never wins again." 3 months later, Eliana stood on a small stage in a community center in Seattle. The room was packed. Kids from the foundation, parents, a few curious reporters, and Gwendolyn in the front row wearing the same gentle smile that had once saved her life. Sophia and her mother had flown in for the event. Eliana didn't have a script. She simply spoke from the heart. "I spent years hiding because I thought love would cost me everything. Turns out hiding cost me more. It cost me time with the woman I love. It cost me pieces of myself I'm still trying to get back. But one 12-year-old girl reminded me that courage isn't loud or perfect. It's just refusing to lie anymore." She looked straight at Sophia. "Thank you for teaching me how to stand up straight." The room erupted in applause. Sophia ran up and hugged her so tightly Eliana could barely breathe. After the event, Gwendolyn found her backstage. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it," Eliana corrected. They drove home in comfortable silence, windows down, city lights blurring past. For the first time in months, Eliana didn't check her phone for new hate messages. She simply held Gwendolyn's hand and breathed. The league never reinstated her, but the foundation grew into something bigger than she had imagined. Scholarships were awarded. Safe houses opened. Young athletes found their voices. Eliana and Gwendolyn adopted a rescue dog and started talking about fostering. Life wasn't perfect. Her parents still hadn't called, but it was honest. And honest, they discovered, was enough. One quiet Sunday morning, Eliana woke to find Gwendolyn already up, coffee brewing, Sophia's latest letter on the counter. She picked it up and smiled at the last line. "I kissed a girl at school yesterday. I wasn't scared." Eliana folded the paper carefully and slipped it into the drawer with all the others. Then she walked to the window, looked out at the city waking up, and felt the last heavy piece of guilt finally lift. Was choosing truth over everything else the right decision, or should she have kept hiding to protect the life she had built?